Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, dear listeners. This is COMESA Radio Africa, the voice of COMESA, the organization everybody wants to be associated with. The mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. That is our philosophy. We are going to talk about coaching. We call it Coaching 101. I have a guest with me who is my friend, Christoph Winterer. He is a true continental. By this time, he is somewhere in Italy. He will explain to us where in Italy he is. But I know that he is located full-time in Portugal, outside Lisbon. Christopher, greetings to you, my friend, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, Sam. Hello, listeners. I'm very grateful to be part of this and be able to talk to you all and give my thoughts, my ideas, and my perspectives to contribute to all what you're doing.
Lovely. Thank you very much. We are really blessed that you could take time to join us on the Coaching 101 at COMESA Radio Africa. Christopher, you and I are coaches. I always want us to almost do a disclaimer by way of accepting the pledge to the coaching fraternity across the globe. Let me read it, and then you and I, we accept it, and then you can quickly just give us a bit of introduction about yourself. As coaches, we do not only require technical knowledge to be successful, we must be relevant to the times we find ourselves in. We must have conviction and commitment to contribute to change in the coaching sector itself. We cannot expect our clients to transform if we ourselves have not transformed in line with the markets our clients operate in. Coaching is always applied in a particular context, either of the client, sector, or the society at large. Our countries, like all other countries of the world, are constantly undergoing change. We coaches are the first in line of contact in facilitating that change. We cannot pretend that we are not affected by the transformation imperatives around us. We carry huge responsibility in supporting or facilitating change that our clients are expected to effect at their workplaces. That is what they pay us for. We are authentic in relating to and serving our clients. We are true to ourselves, and our clients can trust us. Whereas coaching is not regulated, we value the membership of reputable coaching federations, either local or international. We believe in being part of a local and global community of coaches, both as individual coaches and coaching enterprises. We commit to adhere to the ethical code of conduct of the coaching federations we belong to. We conduct our coaching practices and operations in professional manner. We guarantee our clients value for the money they pay for the coaching services delivered by us and our associates. We pledge to engage on our own continuous professional development, being in touch with development in the coaching sector, keeping up with the trends, and adjusting our practices for benefit of our clients and other stakeholders. We pledge to put the interests of our clients before all other interests, except in cases where such interests may be against ethical practices or laws of countries. That is the pledge. I accept it, Christopher. Do you accept?
Yeah, I accept. I fully accept it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So who is Christopher?
Yes. I'm 58, so fairly mature, I would say. Matured matured with increasing set of gray hair, which is fun. My son laughs about it. So I'm 58. I'm married. I have a 12-year-old son.
Yeah.
I'm German by nationality, but I've not lived in Germany for the last 20 years. I lived in Switzerland for 10 years, and then I was in the US for 3 years, and then I moved on to Asia for the last, actually close to 10 years now, 9 to 10 years. And moved just recently back to Europe because we felt, the family and I felt, it's time to get a bit closer to home. But we didn't want to go yet. We didn't want to go back to Germany yet because we like the excitement. We like to be traveling and being international, seeing new cultures, new type of people, and new environments, new nature. And so we decided to go to Portugal. Also for my son, he got into a wonderful international school there. So my background is, by training, I'm an economist and a political scientist. I have a degree in all of these, and plus a bit more on international relations. But I never worked in any of these areas. I started, after studying, I started to work in consulting. For more than 20 years, I worked for Bain & Company, which is one of the bigger strategy consultancies in the world. And I was, in the later parts of that, I was a partner in various offices in Europe, in the US, and later on in Asia, in Beijing and in Singapore. And so I'm pretty much a consultant, classic business consultant, strategy consultant. And then at one point I decided, my son developed asthma in Beijing. We had to get out as quickly as we could. And I decided that's a sign. You have to change. You have to do something new. And I got this offer to work in the corporate environment as an operating partner, pretty much like a private equity model. But it's a corporate environment for the second largest wholesale company in the world. It's called Metro. Metro Cash and Carry. It's a cash and carry business, so it's a big format store, 10,000 square meter store, plus delivery, and it's and I was responsible for the Asian portfolio, for the Asian business, which is 5 countries: China, Japan, India, Pakistan, and Myanmar. So quite broad variety of countries I was responsible for. 20,000 people reporting into me, obviously not directly, but in the whole organization. And so I had my 5-year experience close to 5-year experience in the corporate world. And then at one point, you think about, well, if you take the consulting part, you take the corporate part, something is missing. And what I realized, having worked with so many executives, is it's pretty much a human part where you, instead of just making rational decisions, you need to take much more into account the human aspect, the relationship aspect of how people act as individuals, but also within their companies, within their teams, both on reporting to somebody, but also as a boss, having many employees and managing that, and having to take sometimes big decisions, small and big decisions, and often being left alone with sometimes tough decisions you have to take. And so I thought, well, it's time to learn something new, and that's when I got more into the coaching part, which I'm experiencing now. I'm learning from you guys, from you, Sam, and your experience. I'm jumping on an experience curve of somebody else because I can fast forward based on your work. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm an independent coach and strategic advisor for executives.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. You have a very rich history and a background in consulting, which is very much very much related to coaching, but it's not coaching. It can assist one in transitioning, but I'm sure you are starting to find that one can easily make a mistake while you are busy coaching, and you unintentionally where you are consulting hurt and take over and start advising, and that is really what is not coaching, what coaching is not. But maybe let's just go back. Was it an easy decision for you to consider taking coaching, or how did you process that?
I think the decision was easy. It's just not as easy to make this transition complete.
Yeah.
Now, there are aspects of consulting that, especially when in my world of consulting, you have to listen. And that's very much what a coach does, right? He's listening. He's an active listener. So before you give advice as a consultant, you still have to listen. And if you don't listen, you will not be a good consultant. That's my deep belief. And it's related to the fact that typically 90% of the solution for any business problem is in the organization itself.
Yeah.
So meaning most people know. Sometimes not one person knows, because then they knows the whole story, but because then they wouldn't need a consultant. But in the organization, there's so much knowledge and experience dispersed, and companies don't take the time to allocate, to aggregate it, and put it together in the big picture, that this is typically the role of a good consultant. Listen and listen and listen, and then put a picture together and offer that picture to your client.
Yeah.
And that's what I can. What I cannot, and why the transition is quite difficult, is because you talk too much as a consultant. You jump to conclusions sometimes. You offer your advice when actually listening deeper, asking more, asking different, and moving away from the left brain part of what we do to the right part, to the sensing, to the feeling, to the people aspect of things. Yeah. And that's something that's the biggest challenge that I face.
Yeah. And you have just mentioned that before we even rush to conclusion, we need to look at what the organization itself presents. Do you find clients that come coaching doing enough of that? Or do you find yourself having to refer them back to say, check at your own organization and see, or even the external environment that the organization finds itself in?
Yes, I think one of the wonderful parts of coaching is to allow people for themselves to think systematically through some of these external parts of what they're experiencing. And that could be in society, the whole environment, the whole political, social, legal, etc. environment. And I know, Sam, that's a big part of what you also say and what you do. But also inside the organization. What I find often is that people are so often that they're frustrated with the organization. There's always something to complain about. Oh, but that doesn't work, etc. But if they would take a step back and think maybe there are resources in the company, there are people or organization parts, and there is knowledge inside the organization that could help with solving certain issues or clarify certain challenges. But typically people don't take the time to rethink what is available. And they don't take the time to rethink how they can use it and get out of sometimes difficult situations they're facing, problems with their colleagues, with their teams. So helping as a coach to help open their eyes and their ears maybe, and understanding the context in which they are, and help them to revisit what's the context of their organization. I think is a big part, and probably at the beginning. Also, for an independent coach, it's probably a bit more difficult to do that, because oftentimes, especially at the beginning of a coaching relationship or with a new company, you don't have this full context. So spending time on that, I think, is absolutely critical.
Other than listening, which you have just touched on, what other behaviors consultants should unlearn before they transition into coaching to prepare them to become proper coaches?
They should take their ego, divide by 2, and subtract 50%.
Take the ego, divide by 2.
Consultants, ego, divide by 2, and then take the other 50%. Consultants are sometimes quite confident. They know better, and it's a little bit. I wouldn't call it arrogance, but it's they've seen so many situations. They are quite prescriptive, which is a little bit goes back to what we said before. But it's not. I would call it arrogance. But take away the ego. Think about the client. Focus on the client, and your coachee or your client. I think that's very important. And they should love to smile. They should start to smile. They should start to have more empathy. They should start to sense, feel, and be open for these feelings. Because they're so focused on facts, and facts are your friends. To be clear, you need to have the facts. You need to look at what's happening out there as a consultant, but also as a coach. You need to understand. You need to get the facts first, but then you need to add this emotional
and I guess they need to have patience to build that relationship with the client. And it might take longer. And in consulting, sometimes you will rush people because you don't have time.
Exactly.
Yes. And is that easy for you, having been a consultant for so many years? Is it easy for you to have that patience to build the relationship now that you are into coaching?
It's horrible. It's horrible. And it's why? What you do, when I was a young consultant, I worked for one company, I worked 3 years in a row. It was actually not a big company, not that big a company, very successful company. And I worked for them. I had half a year to develop one business unit strategy. They had 9 business units. So you had to get one after the other. You had time and discussions and so on and so on. Today, you do the same, and of course, because of internet, data is more readily available. You don't have to use with microfiche and fax machines and stuff like that. You have it on your fingertips. So there is productivity improvements, etc. But it's also rushed. You do the same thing in 1 month instead of 6 months, and that means you're not spending enough time with the people, and that means you propose a program at the end. A master plan, Excel spreadsheets or whatever software, new implementation software exists. And nothing gets done because change management is not working along a work plan. It's working with people to make change last and change behaviors of people. And that's very difficult for one of these old-grown consultants like myself. But I guess I said why I made the change is because I sensed that making change stick and making change happen, 50% of what, 50 or 60, I don't know, probably 100% of what you need to do is take the people with you on the journey and understand that human behavior is not just the rational part, the left part of the brain, but it requires the right part as well.
Anything that you have found quite impressive when you started engaging with coaching that you'll entice other people who are consultants to come over and experience?
We are in the same program and talking to each other, and it's just it's a wonderful new world. It's a new world to start with. It's a completely new set of capabilities that you need to add to existing capabilities. It's not unrelated to what I've done in the past. So I think I can learn it. I'm confident I can learn it. But it's opening a whole new world. And that's tough on one hand because you have to learn a new vocabulary.
Yes.
It's a new, you have to change the way you ask questions. It's not only stopping giving the answer immediately, it's a different set of questions you need to ask. Less suggestive. Wouldn't you think of this and this? No, it's tell me.
Yeah.
You just say, tell me. And that opens a whole new world of thinking in the client that is completely different than in, when you ask these questions, what happened this and what happened then, and when you did this and what was the result and the numbers, and that's a completely different set of different type of discussion, of having a conversation. And that is tough. So it's a new world, and it's a wonderful new world, I would add, because it makes you a round person. It makes you a complete person. And I invite all the consultants to take a part of this and embed it into their practice, their work.
Yeah. As you speak to some of your clients and colleagues, are they aware of the trend that is developing, where coaching is integrated into many business solutions out there?
Yes, I think it's a big trend, and you can see that in a number of situations. In my own company at that time, that was probably 2008 or so, when I was still in Europe. My company had the Bain at that time. They started to invest into hiring a professional psychologist. Because as part of what's called the organizational practice group that we had, so thinking about how organizations make decisions, and it was a very left brain kind of rational approach, get all the facts and then you rationalize, so on and so on. They started to understand that behavioral change requires different aspects of psychology that are needed. And the person became one of the most successful and well-respected partners. He was a partner. He's just like any other partner. And we loved to work with him. Why? Because he would give us this complete new aspect. Another aspect that you see in private equity. There's, of course, it's the deal partners, the operating partners, and now there is transition partners or change management partners or senior experts to add expertise and experience, business experience, and also the human aspect of change. And that's also, I think, from what I can see and what I hear in the market, is that it's adding to this pure, rationalistic, financially driven perspective of things. Because private equity companies have to make their companies successful. And it's not about this 2-year buy and sell type of opportunities anymore, but it's real change has to happen in the portfolio companies of these private equity firms.
Christoph, is it possible?
That requires a different.
Is it possible to practice both coaching and consulting at the same time?
If you know, let me know. I try. For me, it's very difficult to forget all my old world and my old experience. So I need to try. I have to. I have to.
So will you say that? Will you say that it's enough to be aware when you are applying coaching practicing coaching, and when you are practicing consulting at all times? So it's a level of awareness that needs to be there in you.
Yes, I think that's one aspect. The other aspect is that in our coaching contracts, we just need to be very clear on what the role is.
Yeah.
I think that so one aspect is being aware as a coach, and you have to make aware your coachee as well.
Yeah.
That your coachee almost has to know you enough to understand that you have both backgrounds.
Yeah.
And almost needs to understand, now he's talking to me as a consultant. And he has to accept it, otherwise it's very difficult. But there's something else, and that's as a relationship with a coachee grows, he will learn how to use different sets of experiences that you as a coach or a consultant or as an advisor have. There's a little bit of a difference between a consultant and an advisor.
Yeah.
An advisor offers advice. A consultant tries to give you a full-fledged solution. It's still your decision whether you want to implement it or not, of course, because you're declining. But he's asked to give you as detailed as possible, as pragmatic as possible, solutions for a specific business problem. As an advisor, you take a bit the helicopter perspective. You go up to the balcony and look down. You go to the top of the Empire State and look down on Fifth Avenue. This is what you do as an advisor. And that is a bit closer to what we do as coaches. And as you grow, as you build relationships with executives, senior executives, as you build these relationships, they will want a combination because that's what they need. On one day, they have a tough decision. They need a bit of advice, not consulting. They don't expect it to. But they want a sparring partner to listen to on a business aspect. And then the next day, they face a leadership challenge where they don't know, or they have a personal issue that they want to talk through. And as long as you're clear and you don't mix the different elements, I think it is possible to build these trusted relationships.
Yeah. We always say that as a coach, you listen attentively to the issues brought to you by the client, and then you try to find the answers inside the client. That can be frustrating sometimes to the client's expectations, isn't it?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And believe me, modern consulting is moving in this direction.
Yeah.
Because now it's not the smartest of the smartest to go into consulting.
Yeah.
Academic credentials are equally allocated across all kinds of industries and all kinds of countries. It's everywhere now. And you cannot, as a consultant, say, I know better. No, because there's whatever Harvard, I'm not Harvard, sorry. There's no Harvard or Stanford or Oxford or something like that, only on that side of the fence. But, and here I'm the consultant, I'm working on the table and then I throw it over the fence and take it or leave it. No, it's co-development. And that's something that is absolutely critical. So consulting is moving in the direction of listening and help clients to find the solution themselves. And it's much more effective in making change stick.
Beautiful. Especially
if you add coaching aspects to it. So I found in my executive role as an operating partner in Asia, working with 5 CEOs, I think I was often a coach. Yeah. I didn't tell them what to do.
Yeah.
I offered them, hey, what do you think? This is the challenge, this is the problem, you tell me. What do you think? And I give them sometimes advice, and sometimes you have to make decisions. Every day is something's happening.
Absolutely.
And you have to do that. But when I drove with one of these people, I drove to the airport. We always used it almost for a coaching session because it took sometimes an hour and 1.5 hours. Where you were, so I think it's coming closer together.
Yes, let's now use one of the coaching approaches.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you. Hold on. I can hear you.
Great. Did you hear my question? I wanted to ask you to use some coaching approach in terms of finding out what's happening in you. What are the things that you are aware of since you started this journey in yourself?
That's a good one.
What experiences are you going through as you embark on this coaching journey, having transitioned from consulting into coaching?
I think I'm detecting my other half.
Yeah.
Emotions that have been hidden, that I've been hiding actively or unconsciously.
You've been suppressing certain emotions as a consultant, which in coaching you need to reveal them. You need to show them to your coachee.
Yes. If you want to be authentic, if you want to build a relationship, you have to give yourself as a person. And that part, and that's it. Not only the robot, the friendly robot that we sometimes are when we do our jobs. It's like there's something industrial in everything you do. Even as a consultant, you have done 1,000 management interviews. You become almost like a robot. Like you do it almost automatically. You think, I was dreaming even in spreadsheets. I was dreaming in PowerPoint presentations. You cannot sustain that as a coach.
Yeah.
A coach has to give his whole. He has to give, and he doesn't.
And you have to be a thinking partner of your client, and you need to meet the client at the level where the client is. There's no stupid client. There's no a sick client. The client is who he is or she is, and you need to meet them there where they are. That must be frustrating for consultants.
Now, I think one of the changes that I've realized is I'm gaining not only in terms of capabilities, know-how, knowledge, experience, etc., but I'm regaining. I think I'm regaining because this part has always been there.
Yes.
Even as a consultant, people always said, "Hey, you're so different." Why? Because you can laugh, you can smile, you can, when we go out you go out with a client for dinner, they tell you sometimes stories, and you relate to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I have always been that way.
And I have experienced you as such. I mean, you strike me as somebody that is very relational. You are fully present. You are engaging, and that is the perspective that I think you brought into your coaching journey. That is the asset that you don't have to unlearn. It is required that you bring your personality with you into a coaching setup, and that works very well for a client. You, as a coach, you need to be accessible to your client.
Well, thanks for saying that. I hope it's true. I hope. For me, I think it was suppressed. This side of me.
You were very schooled well. You were schooled very well by your mentors and your trainers in consulting field.
I think it's the person you are is probably formed within the first decade of your life. I think, and then you learn all kinds of things later on. But typically, these things are either adding to it or they are subtracting of it. They're trying to get rid of some of the bad stuff you have learned until you're 10 years old, which is probably the right thing to do. But as a person, you're formed early on, and that's, I could say, it's that was my parents. It was particularly my mother, who was a very emotional, empathetic, positive, wonderful, nice person. And so I think it was always there. But when and that's not only true for the consulting part of me, but also for the executive work that I've done over a couple of years, 5 years, is something that was suppressed in the plane. Last year, in 2019, I spent 200 days traveling. I was 200 days away from home. And I did the math. I think I spent close to 2 months in a plane, physically, and sitting in a plane. Which is, if you explain somebody what you do and you say, look, I'm strapped into a seat, I cannot move, I'm told what to do, I get bad food, and I cannot move around. What is it? People say, oh, you're in prison. You must be in prison, right? No, I was not in prison. I was in a plane. I was in prison. And you spend so much time there, you're restrained. You are restrained by the size of it, by the seatbelt, by the people in front, and so on and so on. It is, and that's a symbol almost for what you do when you sometimes work in corporations that are have strong boundaries, rules. And I say probably in German companies there's a couple more rules.
So we can't assume that just because you have been in corporate, you can make a very good executive coach.
No, I don't think so. I think what's important is the experience you make helps you to sometimes sense and deeply understand what our coachees, our clients experience. And often it is the rigidity or the rules, the set of rules, and some of them are needed, of course, because of governance and ethical standards that we need to have, environmental standards more and more, and so on and so on. You have all these rules, but sometimes companies overdo it, and they are so rigid. And if a client doesn't really fit into it because for his personality reasons, so it will make it impossible for him to succeed. And as a coach, typically you work with individuals. Sometimes you work with teams, etc. And in our case, we had coaches in my corporate world to help the leadership team to develop and also change the culture of the company. So it has both aspects, both on the individual level, but also on the team level. And that's something that is very, very important to have been part of an executive team that feels the need for change and moves in that direction. So it's not helpful sometimes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you automatically the right or the capability to be an executive coach.
And sometimes we do receive clients that, as coaches, we do receive clients that come to coaching, but they don't really know what they want. And I'm sure something like that in consulting will be a little bit frown at. That you want me as a consultant, but you don't know what you want. But in coaching, that's acceptable. That the clients can feel that the sense of imbalance, and they feel that by engaging with a coach, they could jointly establish what it is that is bothering them. And that is okay.
When I have a client like this, I will send it to you. Okay? I will send him or her to you.
To sort out the coaching goals.
Exactly.
And send them back to you.
But isn't that what we as coach, need to understand? As consultant, you have a search pattern. The way you ask questions, the type of questions, and the content, so facts, is very fact-oriented, rational, hardly ever relational. It comes through most often because, if he told you this, no, he's biased. Also, he talks about others and relationships, etc. But you almost, as a consultant, you don't have the sensoric, you don't have the senses to take on board these relational aspects. As a coach, you search exactly for these things, and you have to consciously search for them. And the way you ask the questions, like you ask me questions in a very different way than a coach, than a consultant would ask these kind of questions.
Because as we say, coaching is relational. The moment you meet with your coachee, there's a saying that you need to dance with the coachee. In other words, you need to walk the path with them. You become equal partners, and it's okay when it takes too long to establish what we are all about in this journey. And then you can ask questions that are directing the client to answering that exactly that. What is bothering you? And when is it bothering you? And how does it feel when that happens? It's like you're playing the game with the coachee, and you are not judging the coachee as they engage with you. So, and that's why I say that this relational thing, we need to spend a little bit of time on it and understanding that it's exactly that. And it will be different from one client to another. Other clients could take you to another level. Other clients, you could find yourself stuck with them. And as I said, that could be frustrating as a new coach coming from a consulting environment or coming from a corporate environment and having to learn to apply the tools.
I think this whole relationship topic is the essence of coaching, and it's why I sometimes get frustrated because I don't have the background knowledge and of course the experience, the multiple years of experience that you have in developing these relationships. That's probably what will take longest. And it's tough. I still think I can do it because of my, openness to these new ideas. I hope I'm open to these ideas. Sometimes I think, oh my God, it's kind of too soft. Give me some data. Give me data or something. Because sometimes I will fall back into that. But then I think, that's a new world, and it's wonderful.
And I think that is, and this is exactly the purpose why this Coaching 101 sessions that I'm holding with coaches, because we are, as coaches, we bring different perspectives. We need our different perspectives to grow each other. And there is one aspect of coaching that I think consulting helps. And that is actually running the enterprise, the coaching enterprise. Before you actually sit and coach, there is an enterprise that you are running, and there we can borrow a lot from consulting. In my view, it must be tough to run a consulting outfit, isn't it?
There are business aspects of it that are, especially when you move from a corporate world into a consulting, into an independent world, and even from a large consulting company, as a partner there, you move into an independent consulting role. You have a couple of things that are there's a couple of traps that you can fall into, and I think these are the same traps as a coach when you start to build your independent coaching practice. I give you an example. What happens, especially with small consulting firms, they fall into this into the trap of they fall into the sell-serve cycle, which means they sell a project and then they're so busy serving the project that they don't take care of finding another client because eventually this project will end. Now, if you're good and you like the work you do, you can keep a client for a long period of time. But what it means is you have, before you, or as part of your biggest challenge that you have, you need to decide on who's my target client. Who do I really want to coach? And understanding that, and if you say, I want to work for a couple of these organizations that have 4, 5, 6 executives each, they have maybe a leadership team below that that's also broad enough so I can do some work there. I can do both. I can do individual coaching. I can do group coaching or team coaching. And you develop a certain target customer segment. And you decide, I'm only doing individual, I'm doing life. There are these life coaches out there, right? You can do life coaching.
Yeah.
So you're not working for a company or an executive, but you're working for a person.
Yeah.
That might be an executive, but it could be anything.
Yeah.
Or you say, no, I'm working on a corporate world, on a type of corporations that are medium-sized or small businesses or something like that. You need to decide which type of
Absolutely. It is very important because coaching is very broad. You will have all these coaching methodologies and frameworks that you use, but I agree with you, deciding on a particular target group that you coach, it helps a lot because then you can hone your skills and your insights to that type of group. But the approaches are the same. It's just that the enterprise side of it will need you to have an understanding of the type of the people that you are coaching and the dynamics that they deal with. There is this challenge every time in deciding on how long you go on a coaching program. Consulting, they can retain you forever. Yeah, you can become a retained consultant, or you can come once off, you coach, and you consult, and then you close the project and you move on. Coaching has got also a little bit. It's got a little bit of a. There's a little bit of a cultural practice there that you can't coach somebody forever, especially on a particular goal forever. So coaching has got a timeline. I always say that I'm comfortable with anything 6 months to 12 months. But if the theme changes, then you can extend it maybe to another 6 months to 12 months. But what do you find to be the trend out there? Have you engaged with fellow coaches, and what do they see as the trend? What are the more standard time frames that coaches spend with coaches?
Well, I think there's a type of coaching that is related to large corporations. And typically, these are not individual coaches. Mm-hmm. So when I was a young consultant or I became a manager, which is the first leadership position in consulting. You manage 2 teams, 3 teams, or something, that. So you get a leadership training. In this case, we hired at that time. It was a one-man show. It was fantastic. It was great. But today, I think there are these networks of coaching networks, and that's something that's very interesting because you can retain clients for a long period of time, and especially when you work with multinational corporations, there is constant change in the organization.
Yeah.
So when I worked in this corporation, the tenure of a senior executive of a CEO of a country organization was probably 2 years or something. Then they move on.
Yeah. So
they get into a new country, they move into a new role, and again, there is maybe coaching required. So there is a bit of now the coaching is a different type of coaching. It's not the personal individual coaching that may still come back, but it's coaching for new roles, new challenges, etc. And that's something. So there's always new people coming up, and so there is a certain level of continuity and repetition, which is good, and you need those clients, a couple of them at least, because that gives you the stability in your business, in your backbone of your business. It creates the backbone of your business. But I think what's even more important, if you are a coach, clear on these are my favorite customers. Let's call it favorite clients. Clients. If you do that, you can develop a program and expertise that is really deep, and you understand the organizational context, you know the culture of their business, you know the countries or the country. So all these contextual challenges that we discussed at the beginning that you don't have to learn from scratch. So it gives you a lot of productivity. So this is a business aspect. I think one is critical business aspect. There's one term that I love, and it's called, what's my core? Core as in heart. Core comes from the Latin word coris.
Yeah.
That's a Latin word. And it means, what's the essence? What's really at the core of things? And if you as a coach understand what is at the core of my business and my work, what am I really, really good at? And nobody else is as good as I am. If you have this conviction and you keep developing around this core and broaden a bit, but also go deep into this expertise, then I think your business will thrive.
So that is
understanding your core.
So that is similar to your value proposition. What makes you different to others?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So we as we move towards the conclusion of our conversation, what do you see as your learning objectives in the coming months or a year as you carry on with this journey of embarking on coaching? Currently, what stand out as the things that you would like to tick off to make you a fully transitioned coaching from a transition coach, having come from consulting?
I think I want to be proficient in relational coaching. I want to understanding both the background and gain enough experience in my practice over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
So I can go to my clients with full confidence that I can make it. I told you before, consultants never have a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
But good consultants are humble. They are, and I try to be humble enough to know that what I don't know. And right now, I don't feel yet I have all this deep experience. And that's why I love working with you, Sam, and some of our other colleagues, because there is, every time I listen, there's new aspects of this that I can add and getting really and strengthening my ability on the relational coaching side. That is so important.
Yeah.
So building that is my near-term goal. And then in parallel, I'm creating a web page that's explaining what I'm doing, and it's this combination of offering strategic. So it's a look at a solution provider for executives as a partner for executives. You talk to senior executives, and they are lonely people, and I would be their coach. And they have a challenge on the relation side or on the business side that I can advise them, not consult them, but advise them. And help them think through. It's a little bit the same, except you apply the same approach of relational coaching, trusted partnership on a business aspect, asking questions related to that, and then not at the same time, but on different times.
Yes.
You become a friend and a partner for them to discuss the personal or psychological aspects.
And I'm sure you can be very helpful. And we do need a lot of coaches that have got rich perspective like yourself. And it's possible to make that transition. And I think one must just be conscious of the fact that you don't use the same approaches that you have used in consulting. And you're right. It's all about the relationship. It's all about the letting go of the ego. Becoming the thinking partner of the client, and not giving and offering answers, but assisting the client to find answers themselves. Because as coaches, we want the capacity to be built within our clients. Ours is to hold the mirror and let them see themselves through us. So if people are looking to talk to you, is there a way? When is the site going up?
Well, it's probably takes another month or so to be finalized, at least the raw version. And then I'm going to add a blog and podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
The normal things of communication. The website is called x3net.com. EX and then the 3 net for network net.com.
Okay.
And you can reach me there, or you can reach me at christoph.winterer@x3net.
Yeah. The email is working already.
The email is working.
Oh, yeah. So it's Christoph.
Don't look at it. Don't even look at it. Christoph. Yeah. It's not Christopher. It's Christoph. CHRISTOPH.
Yes.
Winterer, which is like winter, the season, winter, and a bit colder. Winterer at hotmail at x3net.com.
x3net.com. Beautiful.
EX, like for expertise, experience.
Yeah.
Executives, EX.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Net, NE, like network,
yes.
net.com.
Okay, so it's Christoph.Winterer at x3net.com. Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful. I'm sure many consultants that are inspired there and would like to follow the direction you followed by becoming coaches, and I'm sure you'll be very helpful. And us as coaches, we welcome you to the family, the community of coaches, and we have a lot to learn from your perspective. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Lovely.
Thanks for having me, sir.
Great. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Christoph Winterer. He has made the transition from consulting into coaching, and he's finding it quite very inspiring and challenging at the same time. And I've said to him that we have a lot to gain from his perspective. Let's continue building each other and building the profession. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to the next time you tune in to Commercial Radio Africa. Thank you, and for now, you take care.